You're saying to me, well, these folks are being assigned to research archives from 21, 22, 23, 24. I don't know. I'm going to go on a ledge here and say it's going to look like this. Anybody lost yet? Right, so forget the formal logic stuff. Oh, okay. So tell me more, because there are 4 students, and they're going to be assigned to a history project, and they're searching the archives of these years. Now, each of the 4 years will have exactly 1 student assigned to it. And the 4 students are L, and there are 6 of them, L, M, O, R, T, Y. So, L, M, O. Would it be fair to say these are the established facts? And the established facts, the first inference I can draw, remember it's about that inference, right? Isn't the first inference I can draw, and I'm sure you would draw, is that 2 of the students will not be participating in any given application. Yes. Talk to me?
Yes.
Anybody lost yet? But you get, that's that first jump from facts that are established to facts that are inferred. So 6 students are available, and the following conditions apply. That's it. That's the law. So in analytical, what they start with, without exception, do you think after legislation is passed, they make a change?
Yeah. Yes.
Son of a bitch. So what happens if you understand the what happens if you understand the language of the legislation when it was passed, but you don't understand the language of the legislation after it was changed? Would you agree that's a problem?
Yes.
That sound like logic games?
No.
So the purpose of the constraints which follow next are amendments to the original law. They're now saying, okay, that's all we told you. That's the legislation that came out of the committee, right? But courts are going to look at it and change it. Subsequent legislatures are going to come out and change it. There'll be the history of the legislation which may influence it. So you're going to change it. Yeah, okay. So if I don't understand the change, I'm toast. Okay. And here's your first change. Only L and T can be assigned to 1923. Did I mention that language matters? Talk to me.
Yes.
Only L and T can be assigned to 1923. These 2 guys. So is it fair to say M, O, R, and Y cannot?
Yes.
And therefore a complete and accurate list of who can be assigned to 1923 is L or T. Yes, talk to me.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say they both cannot at the same time be assigned to 1923?
Right, because one at a time, right?
Right. Now, do you think you're going to be using hypotheticals mostly?
Yeah.
You're going to eat, live, and breathe hypotheticals. On my way up here, I was actually listening to the Supreme Court arguments. Remember the case with Chris Christie and the closing of the George Washington Bridge?
Yeah.
Well, that's now available on audio. So if you want to go to the Supreme Court website, it's great stuff. It's great stuff. But it's all about language. So, okay. So how about this? If only L or T can be assigned to 1923 and nobody else can, and they both can't be assigned at the same time, doesn't it have to be the case that in one universe, L is assigned here, and in a competing universe, T is assigned there? Talk to me.
Yes.
Okay, and this is the primary method. So this is called bifurcation. But it's hypothesis. We're using hypotheticals to make things visual. So I'm organizing by saying, well, I'm now down to 2 scenarios. I visualize both, right? And that must be the case. Yes? Everybody agree?
Yes.
Okay. So that's so I got that. I've got So I've got a restraint here, and I've got a restraint here, okay. Next one. Now, wait a minute. But when it says only L or T can be assigned to 1923, when we say L is assigned to 1923, right? If I just limit you to this top hypothetical, what, if anything, have we said about T?
T's not involved. So they can only be in 23, so if L is there, T's never going to be anywhere. So you eliminate T automatically.
So would you agree with me, words matter? Well, let's go over the words again. Tell me they're not, because you don't know. I was going to say, tell me they're not writing this like lawyers, but you're not lawyers yet. Of course they're writing this like lawyers. That's what they're testing for. Listen again. Only L or T can be assigned to 1923. So L is assigned to 1923. Is it fair to say that when this is the case, T cannot be assigned to 1923? Is that correct? Did I get any guidance as to whether or not T could be assigned elsewhere?
No.
Oh, frisky. Oh. So you mean someone who doesn't have enough time, the victim, right? Somebody who doesn't have enough time, who's rushing through the test, and they know they're taking logic games, so I have no clue what they're looking for, might miss that just told me nothing about T up here, and that told me nothing about L down there. Talk to me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and have I mentioned it's changing the way you read?
If they're only eligible for 1920, if they're the only two that can work in 1923, it doesn't mean they can't work in 21.
Yeah, because the writer could have used different words, right? The writer could have said that L or T can be assigned to 1923 and nowhere else, right? And that would, who owns the language? The writer or the reader?
Right.
And they're writing like lawyers. It's really gorgeous. And I promise you, this is, if you don't want to be in law school, this is the wrong place today. I promise you, this is what's going to happen in law school. Right? And because you're representing clients. They don't read this way. They're reading wonderfully informed, but not as lawyers. Okay, next. Ooh, if. So this must be formal logic. If Molly is assigned to the project, then she must be assigned to either 1921 or 1922. So let's write that down. So if Molly, is it fair to say Molly doesn't have to be assigned?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
When? Is there any difference between the word if and the word when?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is that difference?
Inevitability.
Well, if it rains, I'll get wet. When it rains, I'll get wet.
One's certain to happen, the other one might.
Well, we say, well, when it rains, does that mean it has to rain?
No.
Oh. If it rains, does that mean it has to rain?
No.
What's the difference? There's no difference. In other words, you may have a difference as an English major or something, right? What I'm getting to you is it's really just drilling down on we're in the business of representing our clients, and it's manipulation of language. So if you're looking at an LSAT and you're all tied up in this formal logic shit, and you don't see the word if, you're paralyzed because you don't see the word if. That's nice. But the word whenever has the exact same implication as the word if. The word when has the exact same implication as the word if. And you say, well, wait a minute. So it's not I have to memorize if, then, and contrapositive. That's right. It's not hurtful to know.
Sorry, Peter, I have to leave.
Oh.
I'll see you next week.
Okay, and yeah, yes. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So if Molly is assigned, she's going to be in 21 or 22. So if Molly, so all I would do over here is say, okay, if Molly, then she's in 21 or 22. And I would be using the if then. So you can write if then, right? But the horseshoe does mean if then. But does everybody understand now there's been a change in the law? Because when we started, Molly could have been anywhere, right? But now the legislature has come back and said, no. You know what? Would it be fair to say Molly can never be 23 or 24? Yes? So like, who doesn't understand this? What formal logic class did you have to take? Okay, so I got Molly. I got this new amendment. I fully understand it. I'm not going to put anything in here because Molly may not participate at all. Next one is, if Tiffany is assigned to the project, then Ryan must be assigned to the project. So I have, oh, no, not an if then. What will I do? Well, let me see. I'll say if Tiffany is assigned, then Ryan is assigned, right? Okay. So, there's another one here, Tiffany, Ryan. And again, I'll get this. The reason I'm putting check marks there is this has to do with witnesses. Witnesses, would you agree with me that a witness who comes into my office who sees me, bless you, who sees me twice and provides me information about two other witnesses is likely to be more valuable to me than a witness I've never interviewed? Talk to me.
Yeah.
Well, that's what this is. In other words, by giving me information about Molly, doesn't Molly become more important than if you hadn't said anything?
Yes.
And here, by giving information about L and T, they're more important than if you hadn't told me anything. You're now repeating T. Capiche? So T's come in my office twice. My eyes are up. Right. Now, what does that mean? It means what everybody get, that means if T is there, R is there. Right? And does everybody get, if R is absent, T must be absent. Because if T's there, R is there, right? So if it rains, I'll get wet. Yeah? Okay. If I'm not wet, what didn't it do?
Great.
Okay, so yeah, I can call that the contrapositive. I can start talking about the denial of the antecedent and the affirmance of the ends. But why would I do that? There's no need to do that. It's bullshit. I mean, I'm not saying it's inaccurate, but it's like, why am I doing? I thought my goal here was to help you understand the test, not try to lecture you like, oh, I know these terms. Like, screw me. So every time you get an event, that's it. There's nothing else there. Okay. So. Let me see. If T's not there, I don't know anything about R. Is that fair to say? Okay. And if R is present, I really don't know anything about T. If R is present, that doesn't mean T has to be there. Right? Just means, okay. If T is there, the if is the law, the if is the when, right? When I have this, I have that. In the absence of this, I don't know anything about that. There's really not a lot to this. Okay, so now I have T and R. And so now yet another change in the law. And the final change in the law is if R is assigned, then O is assigned. So let me start with if R is assigned,
You got
then you have this. Oh, let me guys. Yeah, okay, so the last one is if R is assigned, O must be assigned to the year immediately prior to R. Okay, so if I have this, I have to have that, right? Which means if I don't have that, I can't have that.
So they're probably 21 and 22.
Hmm?
They're probably 21 and 22.
Well, we're gonna take a look because I'm done with my constraints. And what they're looking for you to do is we're going from facts established to facts implied. That's what this is. We're just in a different section of the test. We're doing the same damn thing. Right. So what's implied from this? Well, if I look down here, okay, is it fair to say that T is present down here?
Yes.
And therefore, is it fair to say this constraint applies?
Yes.
Everybody see it?
Yes.
And since this constraint applies, is it fair to say this constraint applies?
Yes.
And therefore, is it fair, remember we're going from facts established to facts inferred, is it fair to say O and R need both be present on this bottom hypothetical?
Yes.
Talk to me. And you tell me where the O and R have to go.
21 and 22.
21 and 22. If I wanted to spend time at this last one, we had 6, yes? Haven't I been told that M cannot be in 1924?
Yes.
Everybody agree with that?
Yes.
So I'm accounting for O, R, T, and M. Is it fair to say what I've not accounted for is L and Y? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Doesn't it therefore have to be the case that that's either L or Y? Talk to me. And the person who has misread the original constraint is going to infer L cannot be there. Remember, the person who's misread that first constraint, right, is going to conclude that must be Y, and that person's wrong, and that person will almost certainly be tested on it. You guys see it? So this is, we're still organizing. If I come to the top hypothetical, well, there's more going on up here, and this is pretty much the way they do. I mean, what in God's name would they ask you that you would get wrong down here? Nothing. And all they're going from is, here's the explicit law, here are the amendments to that law, right? And what they're testing is, can you do that? Can you go from facts that are established, explicit law, to facts that are inferred, which is the application of the constraints of the law? Doesn't that seem like something that would be helpful as a law school student? Yeah, it's really, so I come up here and I say, all right, I have work to do up here because I don't know any of this. Like in this top one, they could put M there, right? They don't have to put M there, but they could put M there. But if they put M there, they wouldn't be able to put R there. Do you see it? Because if you put M there, there's no place for the O and the R to go together. Do you see it? Talk to me. Come on. So I'm not going to do that work up here, and this is typical in analytical. They allow you to get very concrete in one universe, and you have to manage the variables in the other. So do you guys think we're ready to solve?
Not really.
No? Why not? To solve requires you to manage. So get that's the missing link. Have we organized? Okay. But what you're getting tested on is not just can you organize, but can you manage what you've organized? And if I were to, we'll just try one here. So question number 7 says, change the color here. So we'll work it through together. If M is assigned to 1922, well, if M is assigned to 1922, where are we? Top of the bottom. Oh. So watch what happens. You get now, we have a newly established fact, yes? For the purpose of this question only. Can we now infer from the presence of M the absence of R?
Yes.
Everybody get that? So if you just take it slow, don't worry about time, you say, well, you have the absence of R. And if R is absent, what do you know about T?
T may or may.
Well,
T's not
R is
there.
absent.
T's not there either.
T's not there yet. You guys see it? I mean, we're just touching it, right? Well, but that just means, so I'm accounting for M, I'm accounting for L, right? I'm accounting for R, I'm accounting for T. So the only two guys I got left are O and Y. Okay, let me see here. Now, A says, must it be true that Lewis is assigned to 1924? That must be false. B says, must it be true that O is assigned to 1921? Now we have O and Y left, right? Okay.
That's not a plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a plus.
That's correct, right. Now must. Must it be true that O is assigned to 1924?
No, just get wrong.
Must it be true that T is assigned to 1923? Must it be true that L is assigned to 1923?
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom. Erase this and go to a different one. And all I'm saying is this is not smoke and mirrors. This is organize, manage, solve, and it takes practice. If I look at How about this one? This one probably a little bit hard, number 8. If R and Y are both assigned to the project, which one of the following could be true? So we know down here, right, if R and Y are assigned, you'd be here. But you want to say, since it could be true, you want to look at the top one. So if R and Y were assigned to the top one, wouldn't they be in the same places? Right? Because if you have R, you have to have OR. You see it? So if that were true up here, you'd have OR. What? Okay, yes? Talk, I'll be happy to do it again. And I want to know which of the following could be true. Well, doesn't it have to be true that O is in 21? Because it's true both hypotheticals, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't it have to be true that R is in 22?
Yes.
Doesn't it have to be true that Y is in 24? Oh, so what could be true is either L or T is here. Let's see, well, answer choice A says L is assigned to 1923, so you see the mold come out, you go, like that mold. And then you get the hell out of there. Answer's A. You guys see it? We're just touching it. All right. Okay, I'm going to call it here. Did you get a taste of it?
Yes.
Okay, so you're in a position to judge. So if you come back next week, we'll be working on what I've misnamed. It'll actually be volume 6, exams 72 through 81. And then we'll actually get into the actual units.
Do you recommend doing like a diagnostic before we start?
That's a great question.
Or no?
I'm conflicted. I purposely don't do it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't. The question being, should you do a diagnostic in advance? And here's the deal. The benefit is you get preliminary data. Drawback is if you're not using IRAC, you know what I'm saying? If you're not using this method, then I'm saying that the data you get back is contaminated. And that's my experience. My experience is those calls I get, right, where people are at 139 and they want to throw themselves out window and become 153s. What changed? IRAC. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you take a diagnostic and you disappoint yourself, and now you're a victim. Now, you know what I'm saying? Now you're doubting yourself. Now you're saying, oh crap, I knew I wasn't capable, right? So for me, I would not do a diagnostic, but that doesn't mean you should not do that. But if you do it, just understand that.
Is there progress to be made?
I'm sorry?
That there's progress to be made? Like if it doesn't come out
Yes,
right?
that would be a very healthy attitude. Yes, that there's progress to be made. And you might find that you're naturally gifted. All that diagnostic does, in the absence of I think this stuff, right? It just tells you your intuitive ability. But the intuitive ability can be so grown. It can be so grown. So again, just if you want to register for the course, focusapproach.com. If you're coming back, I look forward to seeing you again. If you're not coming back, it was great seeing you once, and maybe it'll be sometime in the future. You know where to reach me, right? And if you can just drop those cards off, that would be swell. Does anybody have any questions to make?
Yes. Can you go over the volumes again for the LSAT test again?
After confusing everybody?
Yeah. I got 62. Volume 6, 62 and 71.
No, it's 72 through 81. So it is volume 6, it's 72 through 81.
That's what we need for the next time.
That's what you need for next time. Unless God has other plans, I'll be here.
Or
God
maybe
has
like-
other plans.
Yeah, if, I don't know.
When God
Do
has
like
other
more.
plans, not if. All right, thank you all for being here. I'm just going to turn this off. Just a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So if we plan to come back, what should we be doing from like this Sunday to next Saturday.
Panicking.
Like, so we've
Get the
obviously
material.
been preparing by ourselves outside of the class, but like, what should we-
Burn the Logic Games book.
Okay.
That video will be available on Tuesday. So if you register, right, you'll create a username and a password, and then you'll have access through the website to the analytical reasoning video and to that class video. So I would go and start to become familiar with the assets on the website. I would want you to reflect on what we discussed here. I'm not sure I want you to be doing other stuff right now.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, because it's really a transition. Yes.
I guess I was just gonna ask what you literally just said is, should we be doing anything else besides this class?
Reflecting on your life.
Okay.
Reflecting on committing yourself to this, right? And yes, I would definitely go to the website and look at the video.
I'm already actually,
Okay, yeah. Anything else? Okay. Thank you all for being here.
Bye.
Oh, fine, good.
Give us some, that paper.